the spreadsheet automatically grabs the date of the first trade and the date of the last trade for each column of 25, right? Each grouping of 25 trades that gets independently processed for all of that data that we look for. Wins, losses, average win, average loss, reward to risk, expectancy, all that. And we can get the date of that so that we can look back at that window of the market and say, oh, what kind of market did I have in this window of time? It also allows me to go back and evaluate my market posture of the market window in question as well, so that I can include my market processing. As I'll tell you what's funny is that people will look at their trading and they'll be like, let's look at my wins and losses. And they do all of that to assess. And they don't look at how did they do just sort of reading the market overall. Were you too bullish for a non-bullish time? Were you like, and ironically, the vast majority of the time, that was the mistake. They just don't stop there to look. Now, as I was processing this, and I'm like, okay, let's look at these window dates. I'm like, here's an easy one. What was the average market posture during that time? Right? Miguel, I'm surprised you didn't think of this. I was thinking of you at the time. Miguel will come in and be like, well, the average posture since the beginning of the year was, and I'm like, I love that. But I was like, so it was interesting because a couple of blocks, I was like, well, this block, the average posture was 4.2 or something, and it was a pretty good expectancy. But the next expectancy was even better. Well, I must have learned some new tricks, right? Nope, wasn't me. Then I looked at the next block, and the average market posture was 5.75. And it's like, well, yeah, 5.75 average posture, I sure as hell would expect you to make some good money in that situation. And then I looked, and, trading activity level dropped, expectancy dropped, but still positive, and I connected the last chunk of data, which obviously includes what we've seen recently, and what was the average market posture in just that small window of time? 0.75. And when I saw that 0.75, I was like, I think I would accept anything positive, right? If I was even just like slightly negative, and during that slightly negative window, I look at the market posture and the average was 0.75. I'd be like, you know what? It's not ideal, but I accept that. I tried. I worked hard. I had some chances. And at the end, it just barely didn't end up my way. But like I said, I'm like, hey, this thing's positive. It's all I can ask for. But wow, it was very interesting, and I think a great insight where it's an easy connect. Like we can always go back and look at, there's no way to automate it is the problem, right? Like you're gonna have to just go, but it's easy. You just go find the dates, go click and drag and highlight the score for all those dates, left or right, and at the end it just lets you look at the bottom and get it. Anyway, whew. Just I had to share that because that was just last night that I had this epiphany. And of course, when you sign up for this group, maybe you guys didn't read the small print, but when you sign up for this group and you have an epiphany, you are legally obligated to share it with everybody else. So if it turns out that you had an epiphany and then we're all discovered that you had it and didn't share it, you can expect litigation, my friends. All right, let's get to it. Good morning, Market Watch Group members. Welcome to the Monday Market Kickoff. My name is Scott Beck. I will be your host. Keep in mind that, as always, this is for education illustrative purposes only. Nothing we do should be intended as a recommendation to buy or sell any security or financial product. We're not brokers. We're not advisors. Yada, yada, yada. What are we going to do? Opening futures and news. So we looked at the market and we said, if anything, we're starting to feel a little hope, see a little hope. Posture didn't really reflect much. It improved 1/4 point. So stabilized. But we recognize the existence of buyers that are lurking with strong feelings of FOMO around them and amiss. Hi, Ed. Good to see you. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. Okay. So futures are up. So we're not like, oh, wow, futures. Now, are we also like, well, let's hurry and jump in. We're bullish now. The futures are up. No, of course, we're not like that. We know the deal. We know what this market can or cannot do. We know what markers we said we were looking for that would help to orient us for some trades. Yeah, okay. But we'll look at our posture real quickly for anyone who missed it. I see a few people here who weren't there yesterday. We'll look at the economic calendar to get a sense. Not a lot. What are we coming into? Earnings season. So that's the first thing I would flag and caution you about is, as you're looking at charts, start forcing yourself to look out. Hopefully your charts, if you're on Thinkorswim, you'll notice I'll jump from 7 days to 20 days of extra space to the right side of my chart. You can control that as you want. If you don't have that on your charts, you should see if your broker that you trade with does have some kind of charts that will allow you to put that extended space and also show you corporate announcements that would include dividends and earnings. And the earnings is what you're looking for, that little circle. It'll give you the date. No, you're looking for the phone. The little circle with the phone in it. The little circle with the dollar sign is the dividends. That's not as important to us. Okay. I'd be surprised if anyone's carrying any actual trades. I mean, maybe investments, positions, things like that. But trades, short-term trades, I'd be shocked if anyone carried it over. Maybe. If you did, I hope it was bullish. We'll watch the opening range today, which is starting in 3 minutes. We'll look at the we did have a decent opportunity list, actually. There was some things where I'm like, but it's a lot of if-thens. Not like, oh, well, it's my bullish list, and today's futures are bullish, therefore, ding, 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 connection. Nope. No, those bullish trades require something. They require this that I'm able to evaluate a selling cycle. And in that selling cycle, I can see that the sellers are weaker and they start to fail. That's what I'm looking for, is that visible cue that the demand-supply shift has occurred or is occurring. Kami said, with the last 2 weeks of Whiplash earnings, going to be interesting, to say the least. 90% are going to be. Now, this will be interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that we'll watch the percentage of companies that are meeting or exceeding their earnings expectations, and then the next number is by what percentage on average. So we expect to see something around 70 to 78% exceed expectations in a strong bull market. And what we'll do, I'll find that data. I'll make a note to myself. Find quarterly average aggregate earnings Okay. Okay. And Kami said exactly where I'm going to go, that it's not necessarily in the earnings themselves where we're like, oh, they beat expectations. And a lot of times there's this natural assumption that that's the trigger. If they beat expectations, they take off. But that's not it. In fact, the trigger is the but, right? The but, which is the guidance, the forecast. That I agree 100%. That's where the interesting, because they're like, yeah, Q1 was pretty good. We're pretty happy with that. But we're really nervous about they're all, going through trade risk assessment processes right now of like, hey, what are we going to do? Can we resource? Can we do this? Can we do that? And how long will it take? And how much will it cost? And they've got all their guys with their spreadsheets and I don't know, maybe they're running their numbers and saying, oh, that's not good. If that happens, then this may happen. And so they're starting to produce their if-thens where they're like, now as they see what tariffs are like, in place and whatever else, or what uncertainties and dependencies and risks remain, they're going to have to kind of put that out there and include with it their assessment of what they feel the impact or uncertainty is going to be. And that guidance is absolutely, I think, going to be the driving factor as we watch earnings. And so I agree with Kami. It's going to be interesting and possibly enlightening and also possibly discouraging. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's go into it. Gosh, that intro took so long that I missed the futures. That's my bad. But you can see that they were up. They were positive. Trump does Tim Apple. As I remember when he called him Tim Apple. That was pretty funny. Investors reviewing tariff exemptions. Tech gets a temporary reprieve. It's all about the temporary reprieves. And the longer we have, I'll tell you, for me personally, just the fact that there's still like, oh, there could be this exemption and there could be that, and we may go back this way, and then we may walk back that tariff reprieve, and it's the policy instability remains, and that's discouraging for any firm, and any firm who's in that discouraging place is going to start to, in the long term, make sure that they don't leave the right. I got to think, if I was a foreign country, I'd be like, I don't want to be in a situation where every 4 years someone may come in and have the power to just unilaterally do this. So yeah, I do think that we have to make sure that we're aware and thinking about long-term trade diversion. Thinking back to the map that Miguel showed, which was certainly interesting. The question is this the solution that reverses the problem or that exacerbates the problem? The fact that, and realization the factories don't get 3 years. Well, how about this, Kami? As rational heads prevail, they say that there's 75 countries coming in and they want to negotiate. And it's like, is that good? It took 2 years to negotiate USMCA with just 3 countries involved, 2 years. So what are we thinking? Like deals are going to start showing up a couple weeks from now? 2 weeks for a trade deal? I don't think that's happening. Anyway, whew. To some extent, the tariff wars were we no longer buy from countries like earthquake destroying. Companies should have backup plans. Well, I mean, here's the thing: if they don't, they will, and if they do, then that backup plan is a long-term, move towards not having that dependence. I mean, of course, some are just like that's all they can do, right? That's where they sell. But at the same time, if we're the only place they sell, they likely are the only place we can get that stuff for that price. So we're sort of, we're the crocodile and they're the bird. But do you want to eat that bird that's picking your teeth because you can, or do you want that bird to keep picking your teeth? I don't know. There seems to be at that point when you say we accept the symbiotic nature of this relationship without anything else. It's all interesting. I agree. I think the main thing is I think that most everybody would like is less unilateralism and more transparency. Tell me if you disagree. What's on the calendar? Let's talk about that. I mean, no one ever said those things are bad, did they? They're like, no, we don't want transparency. Keep it in the dark. Keep them guessing. Keep yanking it around. Never let them know your next move. You're like, oh, don't you want your American businesses to be able to plan for some stable trade policies? I don't know. I would think that you would want them to be able to eventually be like, here's our targeted policy. Here's what we expect to achieve. Here's how long we think it'll take. Because, like Kami said, factories don't just get popped up overnight. We do have retail sales. What's this meeting? Does anyone know? Jer Bear didn't text me this week and let me know he was speaking, so I don't know what happened there, but I'll look into it. Yeah, there's really not much, is there, right? You got a couple of minor things Wednesday, sales, industrial production, capacity utilization, Jer Bear having a little powwow. But what we definitely do have, so here's our open. I was a little late, and you can see we opened higher and already have begun selling. These are my lines. If I could get my drawing tools there we go. This line is significant to me and important. Through here, right? Which bottom of these old ones and top of this new one just from a few days ago. But I also am keeping track of this little candle here in the middle. Whoops. Excuse me. Pardon me. And thank you, sir. And you can see we're in there. It's a little bit of a no man's land in there. Paparazzi, no, but she's getting big, you guys. She is no, actually, I told my wife this. My sneezing is a form of long COVID, believe it or nope, long COVID. And ever since I had COVID, my sneezing statistically has more than doubled. My average sneeze tenure, that was 2. My average is 3. I regularly get 4 and sometimes 5. 5 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Prior to COVID, I never had more than like 3 ever in my life. And you might think this seems no, because what if it continues and then all of a sudden I'm sneezing 6 or 7 times in a row? I'm looking into if there's like other people suffering from this rare but concerning long COVID. I think I'll be able to handle it. I'm processing it and dealing with it day to day. But I did want to share with you guys my emotional journey with long COVID. So if you ever have like 4 times, 4 in a row, that's what it is. It's the COVID still just around, making me sneeze an inordinate amount of times. Sorry, we got disrupted. Let's go back to it. As we sit in this zone, I'm going to just leave these lines here for a second. Go back to the 5. We're just getting the range. I do know this. That's a tough one to break out of up there. Look at that last time. Just floating up there and just fell. Yeah, my line doesn't transfer. That's what, 546.5 or so. Let's go back to the daily, see where this line is. It's in there. Yeah, right around it. I guess it's up there. No. Anyway. Okay. Yeah. If we break the bottom of this, so it might not be the opening range I'm looking for. It might be more this line at 536 or so. If the sellers push back down and break through that, you would sneeze 10 times in a row. This is sequential sneezes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. It's a complex situation. I know it's a hard thing to wrap your mind. The medical community is also baffled because I look around and don't see any solutions about it. So, yeah, 10 in a row. That's pretty good. It's a good one. Allergies. Yeah, this is definitely long COVID. All right, let's hit the watch list and just kind of see what's cracking. If you didn't see the market posture, actually, let's talk about that for a second. I love honey. We have really good honey. Our state little like picture is of a beehive, the beehive state, because we're industrious and we like honey. Okay, let's get the watch list. Yeah, they say if you get honey within, I think 3 miles or 5 miles, but there's really no allergy benefits if it's not within that close. It's got to be your exact pollens. I've looked into that, of course, during my long COVID research. Okay, let's get this charts up. So Apple, the recipient, Tim Apple and his company have been recipient of potentially good news, but it's falling back very quickly. I'm looking for the second piece. Whatever this is still the first piece. So I have no FOMO like, oh, is this it? Should I have, this is the first piece. I don't care if it got all the way up in here. My next piece is to come back down. And my thought would be, oh, you know what? There's probably a good support level there. And if it comes back and finds support at or above that level, that's my trade. I don't really feel like this looks interesting and enticing and something I want to participate in. Looking back in hindsight, certainly when we look at the bottom of that to the top of whatever came, you're like, ooh, that was a big move. I wish I would have bought yesterday's lottery ticket, but that's not helpful for trading. Let's just let's find what we like trading, and let's, wait for those signals to show up. I hope that, as we looked back and reflected on when our market posture shifted, I think, again, one of the things that we really need to do is learn to trust the process. Okay. AbbVie. Now, this is actually setting up. It was a smaller list, but I did have a list of bears. The list of bears was looking for things like this that were just these nasty, they fell hard and fast. They got to new lows, and on their recovery, where some things like Apple had made these big old shots up, some things like AbbVie have made these little things like this, where it's like, whoa, well, that little guy looks like I've got some old levels to orient around, where I say if that hits there, I think we're heading to the old lows, 163. There it is. There's a potential bear setup where if there's a pretty good selling cycle, I would have the ability to participate with something like that. So those are the two different charts, and then there's a lot of charts. Chart A it had a strong push up. And then it's starting to pull back, and if that pullback goes, mildly, then we may, if it blasts up and then it pulls back mildly, then there may be a bullish opportunity. If it was a huge sell-off prior like this and it has these lows and it can't really get back into this, then it's still a bearish opportunity. And if it's just sort of meandering and shaking and whiplashing, as Kami called it, that's not interesting. That's not like, ooh, let's jump in that spin cycle. So I think the one thing that we know is we're going to be very patient. We're going to be very discriminate in what type of trade we would be willing to look at, build, and take. So even though that's been up for a little bit, I'm not thinking to myself, that's so strong. I think, I don't know, it's just kind of is wandering around after that bounce. Amazon, I mean, this is a tough one, which means you may not even want to, but you could make this argument that it's in this pullback right now, and if it comes down in here, that's your trade where it's starting for a bullish recovery. You could also make an argument that says this thing is stalling underneath this, and there's a very good chance that it's going to make a run back here. And you could make an argument for a bearish trade. And you might say, God, if I could take this either way, I don't know that I'm confident enough to take it either way. Anyway, that's my thought. So that's guiding me to like, what am I looking for here? This one was one that I was looking for bearishly. It's making a okay move, but if it looks like this, and at the end of the day, it's just kind of sitting in here, and then it rolls over. Yeah. Where is this? 96? And from there, even further still, like, yeah, this got a big jump up, and boy, this tariff situation's not going to be good. Alibaba, I'm sure, does a lot of business into America. Okay. Tell me when we see one that you like. I think Bank of America is just kind of shaking around at the bottom. I think BX is the same thing. Caterpillar, I was actually thinking more of my bear list. Real struggle to just get back up on top of that. Not only would we retest, but possibly even lower. So Cat was on my bear list. Well, I can't see my actually new list, but it's on there. CLS, I think CLS, you could make a bullish argument. I was thinking technology and financials as the two sectors that if we had a mild pullback from here and there started to be a bounce, those would be the two trying to lead. So like PLTR, CLS, NVIDIA, Microsoft, those are the few that stood out for me. Look at the Merck continuing to push from that 50-day bounce. Still some strength there. Same thing with CNP. Those were definitely two. CME, right there you go, Sandy. But not. The hard thing is it's like we can't really be like, oh, it's been 4 days in, so now. I mean, maybe if it just sort of keeps grinding for the long term, but for a short-term swing trade, my thought from here would be I'm so close to this heavy resistance at 270. I've only got about 8 points of potential ahead of me. And if I have to put a stop loss down here at 255, well, then I'm risking 7 to make 8. And it's just, there's nothing there. That trade needed to be here on the first day. And then you'd be 3 days. This would be your third day. You're making money. You're feeling good. Then you can take it 2 or 3 more days. So, yeah. Yeah, I need it to be set up, watch it pull back, watch it trigger. That's the only way I can take any trade right now bullishly. Cisco, I would say Cisco had a big pop. It got back above the 200. It's up here. I would say anything back at or above, let's say 55 and change. I don't want it to go back below the halfway of these big candles. And it hasn't even started, first and foremost. Like I might be, ahead of myself, but I'd be looking for a pullback over the next few days that would set up trades for later this week. Delta, I would actually feel more bearish on still. I don't know if I put this on the list, but as I look at this is one that you can see the stochastics looks like it's trying to roll over. Yeah, that's an interesting one right there. My wife told me there's been some travel advisories about countries flying into America. I've heard horror stories of like the lines Americans are getting put into for customs going into other countries, which I get it, man. Like, they're lashing out. I can't say that I necessarily blame them. But that's definitely having a negative impact. Here's the Dow. Duke Energy still got a little bit of a run there if you pulled the trigger on that. Fastenal, big breakout. I'm watching this for a pullback. If it can find a higher low above the 50, then I'm going to give it a consideration. A lot of them are just sort of like nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. GE Vernova has enough of a bounce up that if it pulled back, I'd think about it. But this is coming up on earnings. You don't have that much time. You're a week away. Week in 2 days. So not a lot of time. GILD. So this is something where people are like, well, Scott, look, it's hitting the 100. You have the 100 there. I have the 100 there for perspective, not because I'm like, hey, if I see something bounce off the 100, I'm going to trade it. That's not what it's there for. That shouldn't orient at all around that. And they're like, the stochastics is turning and it's yeah, look at the stochastics already kind of pinching back towards the inside. Like, anyways, SFM, I'll take a look at. The bottom line for me is that is not interesting. Gold, I told you I took the the full gains from the GDX trade. That was Glenn put that one out for us. Thought it was great. Locked it in, and yeah, good. Great trade. It was at the first target, but I felt like that was enough of a target. Google's done enough. Nice, steady push up. A lot of good buying volume in there. All I need is a nice, tepid selling cycle that sets up a higher low. That's the trade I'm looking for. Goldman Sachs, same thing. Goldman is reporting earnings, I believe, this afternoon. Oh, they already did? What, did I miss that? No. Did they? Okay, well, I'll have to go look into that. I don't see that they announced it. Someone tell me if you find a Goldman Sachs earnings announcement. Hood, I like Hood. So I like Goldman, I like Hood. Either one of those on a mild pullback. Let's say it pulls back just like halfway down, somewhere around maybe this 39 mark. I think it's heading up towards 55. I like that. I like Howmet on a pullback. They're all on a pullback. IBIT, maybe something bearish there. We just had a new low. We had a nice bearish trade on this not too long ago that we did well on. IBM, that's a maybe for the bull the other way. ICE, no. Profits rose 15. Revenue 6. Okay. Fair enough. Coca-Cola has this big move up. Just waiting for a mild pullback. Kroger. That's actually, would have been the trigger here 2 days ago, and you'd be thinking maybe. It's moving. MasterCard. Meta's a no. Meta's not on my list. I don't know. I guess it could be if you liked it, if you're a big fan. That's where we are. So maybe, I guess, actually, maybe I'm not going to dismiss it so summarily. Let's see. I think I like Microsoft better, but there's Morgan Stanley. That's got prospects on the pullback. There's Microsoft. That's a nice breakout. Looking for that thing for a little pullback there. It'd be great. Netflix. No. And I know maybe on a pullback, but I don't know. NVIDIA, I still like, but have to wait. I'm not going to just chase into it because I like it. Same thing with PLTR. Philip Morris. That's actually, we looked at that Friday. It's still kind of giving you an opportunity to, that's your last real good chance to try to catch something if you think it's going to make a run. Where are we? QQQ. I like it. There's some strength there that we'll see how that plays out. We're open to it. SFM. Sorry, I know I'm getting close. I'm an alphabetical. Superstition. I have an alphabetic superstition. Reddit? No. Rocket Labs? No. RTX. RTX on a pullback, but earnings coming up. SE, no. Let's go SFM. How about SFM as in Mary as you intended? Sprouts. Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, love it. That's in that same vein as our K's. Kroger, Coke, KMB, Kimberly Clark, I believe KMB. But yeah, nice defensive. It's a market. It's a grocery. Nice 3 days ago. Maybe a little late now. But if that's one you've been watching, I definitely think that's a good place on the watch list. Here's the SPY. So it's holding on to some gains, but so far buyers have not been able to do much. We'll see if the selling cycle starts to push a little harder or not. Ooh, I'm at time. I gotta hurry. Toast? No, there's not a lot. For me, like I said, there's a handful of financials, a handful of technology, a handful of financials. I don't like TSM. TSM, I'm actually more bearish than anything on. Twilio, same kind of a thing. Let's just look at the VIX and then Walmart. We've basically seen the list. So the VIX is still holding in this range here. This is not. I mean, I guess let me just see. You could make this argument that it did up and this is down. I don't know. I feel like this is actually supports more of a. This is all one big. This is one move down, and then we're going to see if and when this goes, how high does it go? But this would be lower high. This would help confirm de-escalation in the market volatility, representative of institutional market sentiment, which obviously makes it even more important in our process and evaluation. Okay. Questions? And lastly, let's go take a look at where's my mouse? There it is. Walmart. Let's get this back to a reasonable. Yeah, I love Walmart. I was like, we were looking around here to figure out what was going on, and even here we're like, oh, okay, and then boom, a new low. Finally, it made this move. Now what? Now my thought is anywhere from there as a flag to this middle point for a pullback. Anywhere in that vein on a pullback, on a pullback, on a pullback. So if you're looking for a bullish swing trade, you can see why we don't get like fool's gold fever when we see the futures are up. Oh, the futures are up. What am I going to do? Yeah, we're going to be patient, watch, see if they hold, go from there. Yeah, as this thing breaks one way or the other, there may be some day trade stuff. So if you're going to sit around and watch, there may be something there. I'll probably keep an eye on it, and we'll talk about that later tonight. I think we have our working orders. Let's keep an eye on those things that we mentioned. I will be on this evening for an amazing Q&A session. Why is it going to be amazing? Because you guys are going to bring amazing questions. And when you do, I will try my damn hardest to give you amazing answers. And that's our symbiotic relationship. Okay, thanks guys. Good to see everybody. Have a great rest of your morning. Don't forget trading plan. We're working on section 5 this week. Routines. Get your daily all hammered out first, then get your weekly taken care of. And once those are in place, Then make sure you habituate the process. Do them over and over and over again. Then you work on your longer term, and then you're an amazing trader. Now I'm going to go get me some delicious Utah industrious honey. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your morning. See you later tonight. As always, happy trading.
Recording stopped.